Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here, and welcome to a brand new series in which I'll be reporting on news, film and animation related news. I've noticed that a lot of my fans like to hear my opinion on new events, new announcements, new reports, and it's difficult for me to convey them in a comment reply, so I thought this is probably the best way for me to do that. Because I have to be very fast and quick with these videos, it won't get an early access for patrons. Sorry patrons, but I've got to be in the moment, I've got to be quick. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about, the first ever thing in fact, is the announcement of an official release date for the Willy Wonka prequel movie. Yes! That is actually happening. It's been in the works for a while, and now we finally have the year, the official year that it'll be coming out, and that's 2023. So what do I think? Well, on the one hand you could argue, oh yeah, this is just another example of Hollywood running out of ideas. Yeah, I kind of get that. And sure, I also understand the frustrations from Dolph fans who want an adaptation of the actual book sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I get that annoyance. But at the same time, based on what we've been given at this point, I do think that there's potential for something interesting and unique. Okay, because I do think there's something appealing about watching a character like Willy Wonka in his early days making epiphanies, coming to inspirations, defying science, and seeing the reactions around him like, oh, how is he doing this? I like that. There is something endearing about a young Willy Wonka and his journey into becoming who he is. And perhaps that's a little alarming for some people because they don't want that mystery to be broken. But for me personally, as someone that is really fascinated with stories about people finding their passions, I like the sound of this, okay? We don't know who is going to be playing Willy Wonka, which is concerning because that will definitely dictate the style, tone and humour of the film. If you look at the other Wonka movies, Johnny Depp and Gene Wilder are they're very much in the spotlight and carrying the film, so I am curious who they're going to pick. Now, in terms of what I would personally want, and this is probably a very vanilla answer, but at the same time, sometimes the obvious is probably the best, but I would go with Tom Holland, because he would have what would be needed for a young Willy Wonka. Keep in mind, this has to be a young Willy Wonka. He has this energy, confidence, an adorable persona that I think would fit that. And there's also a very quirky side to Tom as well. And yeah, I can see that kind of working. I can see that kind of fitting. Especially if it's going to go from a journey of like maybe a very nervous Wonka who grows to become a stronger, more mysterious kind of Wonka. I think Tom could do that. I really do. There's a lot that could be done with a Tom Holland Willy Wonka. Young Willy Wonka, keep in mind. Because they're going to be different kinds of men. Willy Wonka, when he was younger, will be a different kind of character than what he is when he's older. So it's important to keep that in mind when casting him. So yeah, I'd go with him. Kind of curious what others would think, though. I don't know who the popular choice is at this point. But yeah, but what we do know at this stage is who's directing and who's producing. And who's attached has maybe a little excited but also a little cautious at the same time. So we've got David Heyman doing producing role, and David Heyman is best known for the Harry Potter movies. What kind of alarms me about him being attached is that the Potter films are known for their spectacle, their size, and I don't think that's going to fit something like Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka and doll stories in general are very, their appeal, their charm, their endearment comes from how small they are. And if this is going to be a story about Wonka before he's even got his factory yet, yes, you need to keep things small. So I don't want David to get too ahead of himself. I want him to definitely keep in mind the size of this story. But at the same time, if you notice in a lot of Harry Potter movies, there are little magic moments. There are little treasures that the characters will find. And the Harry Potter films will manage to capture the intrigue of those certain objects. So I really hope that David's experiencing exploring that aspect of the Potter franchise carries on in this prequel. That's what I hope. Now, what I'm very excited about is having Paul King as director. He's best known for the Paddington films, but to me, I mainly associate him with things like The Mighty Boosh and The Bunny and the Bull, which are incredibly strange, incredibly surreal. And the thing that Paul is amazing at is finding the charm in the strange. And I feel like he could bring that to a Willy Wonka prequel. I really do. And that's what makes me so excited. I'm wondering what he could do with that. He knows how to make the simplest of things incredibly charming and really enchanting. So I know that he could probably bring something really special to this movie. And again, if you look at The Mighty Boosh or The Bunny and the Bull or even the Paddington films, there's this psychedelic surrealness to them, but also a dark side to them as well, particularly with Bunny and the Bull and The Mighty Boosh. So yeah, there's something's being cooked up here that I kind of like, but it all depends on how much control Paul King is going to have over this. It really does. And it will depend on who they cast as Willy Wonka. Now, before I end this video, I want to know from you, what do you think of this announcement? And who do you want to play Willy Wonka? A young Willy Wonka? Cheerio, folks.